Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to the Executive Officer's Report. Mr. Knopp?
We have a few, few personnel announcements from the staff as well. Carl Leszewski, our Chief Engineer, who's been with us for a long time, has announced his retirement effective November 5th, I believe it is. And Carl will be greatly missed. Dusty Boger, who works on a lot of our web processes, is leaving for a much higher paying, important position, and we wish him the best. On the same hand, we've gotten a few new employees. So we have Chris Hahn, who is a web designer, who nicely is fitting in to cover some of those losses from Dusty leaving. He has just come on, and Garrett Lyle, which is a senior environmental scientist, a soil scientist, is coming on in a term position. So those are the near-term changes that we've just had. And then I'd like to give you a little update on some of the activities that we've been undertaking for the last month. One of the things that I've told you about before is that we've been working on how do we implement the Delta Plan. And so we've done some internal workshops. We've gone through a great deal of effort to think through that carefully. And as a result, we've been able to generate a budget change proposal, which I unfortunately cannot talk about the details of that, but just to say that all the work that staff had done has set that in motion and created the opportunity to get it, I think, a very, very good proposal put together. And I'd like to just thank the staff for all their hard work on that. It was really, I think, an exceptional effort that took a lot of time, and they did a great job, and I'm very appreciative of that. We'll be able to share that once the governor proposes his budget, and then we're able to talk about in detail. One other thing is, about 3 weeks ago, I had attended a meeting put on by Mountain Counties, and I think Reiner was able to join me on that one. And it was an interesting meeting from the standpoint that Roger Bales, a professor at UC Merced, was talking about forest management, basically, to enhance water yields. And he's been talking about this for some time and has quite a demonstration, but I just thought I'd share with you that Roger is making the point that a 9% increase in water yield is a realistic option from the Sierra watersheds, and 16% is possible under intensive management. My background is in hydrology and forest hydrology, so these are, in my view, somewhat optimistic numbers. And there's a lot more discussion that would have to go on to talk about actually being able to achieve those changes in time. But I think there's real benefit in the discussion, and also in the thought that there are multiple objectives that could be served here. Right now we're seeing big changes in fire regimes across the state. A lot of that's as a result of past management that's occurred or lack of management. Some of it's due to people moving into areas where they didn't live before, so fire suppression is necessary where it wasn't before. Part of it's due to climate change. There's a wide range of things that are affecting this. But these changes are affecting people's lives. They're affecting water quality as a result of the fires that we're seeing. And what's being proposed here is another idea that adds, I think, gravity to the idea that a more active management of uplands is a good idea, and whose time has probably come. And we'll probably be hearing more from Roger and his cohorts in the future, and I look forward to inviting him to make a presentation to the council at some point in the future so he could share his information a little bit more with us. Other things, we have two actions that we've undertaken immediately. One of our responsibilities for implementation is to have more of an accountability role. So we have reorganized somewhat with John Ryan being in charge of the data that is necessary and assembling that data to have a report. And then we intend to produce an annual report. The annual report will be the responsibility of Keith Coolidge. And so the two of them together are teaming up to basically create a first product that we'd like to be able to present at our January council meeting. I don't expect this to be a report that we'll see in the future. I think it's going to be more preliminary in nature, a lot of placeholders for things that we haven't had time to assemble the data for and the background for. But I think it's necessary for us to move forward on this now, to get the ball rolling, to create some expectation and some refinement of that idea as we move forward. Lastly, our implementation committee, we've talked about this many times with you, and it's continuing to move forward. We've got a lot of work in front of us. Taryn has been on the job now for a blistering 3 weeks, and I think she still intends to stay with us. But it's the daunting nature of this task is obvious. It's very difficult to talk about coordinating multiple agencies, about putting together work groups that will tackle specific problems and figure out how to make that all work, as well as create a working agreement for those agencies that would be reflected in some sort of memorandum of understanding, I anticipate at this point. So that's all coming down the track. The bottom line, I think, for that is we had talked about much earlier about a first meeting in October, and I think it'd be more realistic to talk about it sometime after the first of the year, hopefully early in the new year. And with that, I conclude my remarks and answer any questions if anyone has any.
Randy, did you? Okay. All right. Let me make a note. Ms. Pearson is not here this week, but the ledge report is in your packet. 2 sections of it, bills that are 2-year bills, means they're live next year, and then bills that have been acted on and are on the way to the governor, some signed, worth your look and examination. Members, if you would turn